2015, a very dear friend of mine, Tokwe Show, called me. And I remember clearly Tokwe's telephone call. I was scared and equally surprised because she sent me this picture. So you can imagine the horror. You can imagine the fear. I didn't understand what the picture meant. This was after she had told me that she was going to hang up and send me a message on WhatsApp. So Tokwe sends this first picture, and I asked her what the picture meant, and Tokwe told me the then few-day-old baby was born with cancer in his eyes. Clearly, she knew I would relate to the story because I also survived cancer 11 years ago. The moment I saw the picture, his name, by the way, is Victor. I knew he was in pains, without a doubt. He was born this way, like literally. I told her to give me a few minutes, which eventually turned into hours. I was disillusioned. I couldn't come up with the money. 3 million naira. Where was I supposed to get 3 million naira from? Not from me, not from my immediate environment, not from anyone around me. And about 3 hours later, I remember going through my phone and checking contacts. Then it occurred to me that I knew someone who worked with the Lagos State Ministry of Health. Then I called the person. And then the person said, send me a picture. I sent this first picture, and he immediately calls me back and tells me, ask the family to immediately submit a letter to the Commissioner of Health's office with all the evidences that he had. Thankfully, the family was currently at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. And because it's run by the Lagos State government, I figured it would have been easier for the Lagos State government to come on board. In 3 days, Mr. Emmanuel, Victor's father, called me and sent me this picture. He had successfully undergone the surgery, and thankfully enough, the Lagos State government had not only agreed and accepted that they would pay for the surgery, but also that they would pay for his post-surgery expenses. I was in shock. All I did was pick up my phone and then make that one call. The power of network. I'm a recipient of goodwill. I have so many stories to share, but I'll share this one story. When eventually I had arrived at the University College Hospital in Ibadan during the whole journey of cancer, I remember so clearly that the doctors were by my bedside and had just told me that I needed blood transfusion. There was nobody to give me blood. I'm an only child of both my parents. So my father had been with me, my mother had to be out of the hospital, so someone had to work for the money to pay for the medical expenses. And a few minutes before the doctors arrived, a friend of mine and a hallmate had called me to tell me that he had a friend in UCH who was a student doctor at that time. And incidentally, Dr. Laolu Adewale was by my bedside when my orthopedic surgeon was telling me, young lady, you need 3 pints of blood. I didn't know where to get blood from. I remember making a call, and the first person I thought to call did not even bother to think about it. Just went, oh, I'm sorry, I can't donate blood. My world literally almost ended. Dr. Laolu Adewale noticed that I was bewildered, and then he immediately said to me, oh, great, I'll donate blood for you. I'm like, huh? And then he didn't stop there. He went ahead to say, I'll donate blood for you and also get my friends to donate blood for you. This was the first time I was ever meeting Dr. Adewale. We had barely spoken for over 5-10 minutes, if my memory serves me right. And this stranger decides to donate blood for this one person who was in a fight for their life, fighting against cancer. So when I tell you that I know what goodwill means, I think you should take it from me. I then also remember the story of a friend. So this friend of mine had told me about a secondary school friend of hers whose cousin lived in Abuja with his family. And surprisingly enough, everything had to do with cancer in that season of my life. And then she sent me this picture. 3-year-old Eniola, unfortunately, did not win his fight against cancer. But if there's anything that stood out the most, to not just me, but to the family, is the fact that a community of people were birthed from that boy's story. I remember very well telling the family that I don't have 4 million naira that you're looking for, but I have a platform because I work on radio. And I knew that in order not to inundate my listeners, because of the myriad of stories every week that we hear, asking for one help or the other, I knew this one story was a story I needed to share to my listeners. And in 2 days, till date, it still beats me, we were able to raise over 4 million naira for Eniola to fight cancer. Eniola unfortunately passed on after weeks and weeks of treatment. His body was too fragile for the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy and all the exposure and the toxins that he had been exposed to. But I remember that meeting the family for the first time last year in Abuja, one thing that struck me the most that the family shared with me was, we will ever remain grateful, primarily not because of the money or the funds that were raised, but because of the community of people that continue to exist owing to Eniola's story. Every now and then, these individuals still reach out to the family to ask them how they are doing. These individuals call the family. These individuals leave messages on social media. Some individuals have gone as far as calling me and asking for the telephone number for his father. This is 2 years after Eniola's death. Without a doubt, and I wonder why the rhetoric is that every time and quite often we hear giving, everybody thinks of parting with money. In Victor's story, Victor is alive today. He just clocked 2. And this is Victor, his father, mother, and his younger sister. The only reason Victor is standing and alive today is primarily based on the power of the network that I had on my mobile phone, and I decided to use it. Or is it me who's sitting here that has Dr. Adewale's blood flowing through me and his friends? I remember once I looked for his job and he looked at me and said, please return my blood. I'm like, yeah. I'm sitting here because these strangers understood the power of giving, that it transcended not just money. Or is it with Eniola's story and how the community of individuals was created for this family, not just the family, interestingly enough, but for their friends, their neighbors, his father's co-workers, and every single individual that heard the story. The next time someone tells you to give, please do me a favor. Do not think about how much you have in your pocket or how much you're worth, your bank account. Let humanity come first. I recently heard someone saying that no culture is older than being human. I have seen Nigerians be human to one another. So please, let's remember, humanity first. Thank you.